not entertained.
All right, this is my second pick. And I think this was another one that my cousin was thinking about that I had beat her to the punch. And I'm just going to say this. I'm going to give a little bit of quick history before I get into this. Everyone looks at Tony Stark's Iron Man being the savior of Marvel and starting off the MCU. I'll go ahead and give them that. What people don't know is the Blade film was the first film they put their real money to that really started and gave them the money to transition to the Iron Man films that took off the way they did. When Marvel made Blade, it was literally hey, this is we're betting everything on this. This is our last shot. Because you ask most people, before this movie came out, they didn't know Blade as a Marvel character. I picked this. Well, one, I love vampire movies. They're right up there with zombie movies for me. They're the comfort food in a sense. And I think this is one of Wesley Snipes' best roles. I can't really think of anything else to come to mind. But as a Marvel film and as a vampire movies, they were awesome. Deacon Frost's character and the legend and lore of ancient vampire rituals to become what he is, that he was already due to just chance of genetics. Awesome. It was truly, truly. Then you had the sequel, which delved deeper into their lore of where vampires come from, and they are mutated through a virus feeding. It was like, what? What are we talking about? Vampire lore was, there's some old dudes from back, during medieval time with the fluffy clothes and suck human blood. They really threw more depth into lore of vampires and vampire hunting, silver and ultraviolet bullets and everything. It's just really, really wonderful. Then, of course, as always, you get to the third film. Sometimes they end great. Sometimes they I enjoyed Blade Trinity, third film. It was I liked how they kind of reinvented the lore and backstory on Dracula and how he was, the perfect being and could do all this. He left the world and so on. So I'm like, okay, nice, different take on it. But it kind of went left field for me. Ryan Reynolds and the hijinks and his jokes and whatnot. And, I thought this was a great, great film trilogy. To me, personally, Wesley Snipes has not done anything similar or groundbreaking as this. He was in the Expendable movies, but we won't get on that. I picked this because, like I said, my love of vampire movies, and I thought these were great Marvel movies, even though people don't know that and he doesn't get any recognition today. These were my picks.
Yeah, I have nothing but love for Blade the character in these movies. It's very unfortunate that the Blade for more modern times is I don't understand what are they doing, bruh. They had to do the perfect dude to play it. He backing out because the story and the director. I don't know. It's in some bullshit. You can look it up after you watch this video. But yeah, I have nothing but love. Now I will say I was too young to go see the first Blade movie in movies, but I do remember seeing the second one. I want to say maybe I didn't. Maybe it was just a third. I know I watched one of these in the theater, but other two I watched on cassette tape, VCR, whatever the fuck it was. But yeah, Blade has. Listen, even though these movies are not overly Marvel like we know Marvel today, all the CGI and all the bullshit, but I just remember Blade when his fucking fangs would be out and all the motherfuckers hated on him, and he was in all that leather, and I don't know, it's just everything about these movies. It built my foundation on what I think Blade is and should be, and that's why I was very much interested when old boy, I can't even think of his name, I'm sorry, the actor that was picked and announced to be the new Blade going forward. I was like, okay, that goes well with the foundation of Blade of how I know it. So yeah, I hold these movies in high regard, even though technically they're not the best movies. They're not groundbreaking in any way. But like my cousin said, this really did save the studio at the time, and a lot of people do not give Blade the recognition I think it deserves, because for the time these came out, like I think the first one came out in 98, the second one in 2002, and then the last one in 2004. So you got to think about where technology was and film making and stuff, and like we said, this is all before Iron Man, and this is what saved the studio, and it doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. But I got nothing but love for Blade, and no one can really tell me any different about these Blade movies, because baby, this is like one of the foundation movies of my childhood and very R-rated and mature movies. But yeah, nothing but love for Blade. That's all I got.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you made me think back about it. This really was a real big movie for me in my childhood. you said 98. I think this was what made me start wearing black clothing the way that I did, just trying
Oh
to
God.
be cool and be outside. Yeah, I love the Blade, that first Blade movie. Like I watched it numerous times with, like I said, the Deacon Frost. I used to be trying to look up, well, not look up, but go to libraries or find any books on like old vampire lore, things like that. Because before then, vampire lore stuff was kind of cookie cutter. You
Yeah.
know, vampirism, suck blood, possibly transforming the bat, and then here comes Blade, not only going deeper in their lore, but even vampire hunters as a whole, with not just some old guys living in a forest with wooden stakes. You know, this
And
went
garlic.
in. Yeah, with garlic. You know, this went in. Vampire Bibles, lore, their own type of religion and everything that came along with it. And then also, to what my cousin said, this gave the character itself recognition, because just like with Iron Man, Blade was not a well-known, loved, or known character like that.
Or
Same as Iron Man until
mainstream.
these movies came out.
Yeah.
It was not mainstream. It took these movies, having these actors bring them to life on the cinema screen. The people are like, oh snap, oh, here he is. Now, I don't know if he was in the Marvel versus Capcom games, but I do believe Blade was in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. And that was a character I did pick, use, and play because, hey, of my fond memories. So, hey, shout out Wesley Snipes. Like I said, I think this was like the height of his movie career, and I do not recall him doing anything bigger or better. This was another trilogy I truly did enjoy. And we can just move on to the next.
All right, so my next pick is Spider-Man Trilogy, that was directed by Sam. That is often referred as the 2000 Spider-Man Trilogy because it went from 2002 to 2007. None of this Tom Holland Spider-Man nonsense that I do not like, and I have went on the show and said I do not like that Spider-Man trilogy movies, or wherever the fuck Disney is doing with it. But the trilogy consists of Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and 3, directed by Sam. The film followed Peter Parker, the original young man, balancing personal sacrifice with the responsibility of being Spider-Man. The trilogy centers on responsibility, sacrifice, and identity. Some of the famous quotes that came from these movies: with great power comes great responsibility, is the emotional backbone. Heroism is shown as costly, often requiring Peter to give up love, normalcy, and happiness. Villains reflect distorted versions of Peter's own struggles, obsessions, pride, revenge, and ego. Rather than power fantasy, the trilogy frames being a hero as a burden you choose to carry. The cultural impact: mainstream superhero films as serious blockbusters before the MCU era was really groundbreaking. Spider-Man 2 is still regarded as one of the greatest superhero films ever made. It became popularized emotionally, character-driven superhero storytelling influenced how studio balanced spectacle with personal stakes, cemented Spider-Man as a defining pop culture icon of the 2000s. The film proves superhero movies could be financially massive and emotionally grounded. Spider-Man came out in 2002 and generated $825 million worldwide, still regarded for one of the best performing movies in that year. Spider-Man 2 came out in 2004. It did $789 million worldwide. But Spider-Man 3 is the highest grossing movie out of all three of them, $895 million worldwide. And this is before the housing crash. So 07, movie tickets the tickets wasn't more than $5. And it still almost eclipsed $1 billion. That is huge. Total trilogy box office exceeded $2.5 billion worldwide. The legacy: the 2000 Spider-Man trilogy laid the foundation for modern superhero cinema by providing the emotional storytelling, the moral themes, and the blockbuster scale could coexist, shaping everything that followed from the MCU to today's comic book films. Now listen, 2002, I'll never forget. This was the very first live action superhero movie that I saw ever in life. Because like I said, I know Blade was 98. I didn't go to the movies because I was so young when that came out. I watched that on VCR, cassette tape, whatever it's called. I didn't see one one of the Blade things in movies until the last one, which is after this. But I just remember being in the theater as a young child and watching some of the fight scenes, like when he's in that burning building and he does that little freeze, like slow-mo twist between the blades. I just remember the whole theater erupting. Like, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why is everybody yelling? But it was so many scenes, even beyond that, that the theater react to with such strong, like, emotional. And I was just like, I didn't realize how popular Spider-Man was. Of course, because I'm a kid, I don't know. It looks cool. So he's swinging from building to building. It's like a modern day Tarzan in my eyes. But I didn't realize Spider-Man as a character was so popular, and it explains why the theater reacted. And that wasn't just with the first one. I remember seeing the other two in theaters, and maybe not the third one, but the second one, they were still erupting when scenes happen and things like that. So I hold this Spider-Man trilogy in such high regard and kind of the staple of what Spider-Man is supposed to be. If you watch and like the Tom Holland Spider-Mans that, Disney has control of, I'm not gonna say you're wrong or whatever. They're just not going to top pedigree in my head. And you can call me biased or whatever, but I just remember Spider-Man being like a grown-ass movie. Like, it had grown-ass consequences. It wasn't all this kiddie-like shit. And I'm not saying it's kiddie, but I don't know. It just, this Spider-Man felt more grown up. Let me phrase it like that than the Tom Holland Spider-Man. That's how I feel, and that's what I'm gonna stand on. No one can change my mind. And I just don't like the modern Spider-Man. But this was like I said, very first live action superhero movie I saw in theaters as a young child. So it's always going to be a staple, and always be, even though the third one has some flaws and it was kind of like, usually these trios, by the time the third one comes, they're kind of veering off a little bit from the main road, but you kind of let it get to the finish line because the other two were so great. But like I said, Spider-Man 2 is still regarded as one of the best live action superhero movies ever made, and that's even with Marvel having an onslaught of live action superhero movies. So yeah, that my pick, Superman trilogy. I don't think I will ever have a Spider-Man that will come out for the rest of my existence of my life on this planet and will top how I feel about this version of Spider-Man. But that's just me.
Yeah, you are not lying about that third Spider-Man film. Boy, when it came out and they were showing the marketing, it had the black suit, everyone was like, oh, everyone was excited to the high heavens for that film. I remember like, hey, I need to see this the day it comes out, or at least that weekend. I was hot for it. Boy, it really kind of, but this like a pattern. By the time these third films come out, like, yo, what are you doing? I was really upset. There was a lot of crying in that movie.
The viral video of him dancing and shit. What the fuck were you?
Yes.
What's going on? Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my
When
God.
that third movie came out, you could tell, hey, they was probably tired. They was like, y'all just gonna get this shit over with.
Yeah, let's wrap a bow on this.
Crying, the emotions, and I can tell you, me as a Spider-Man fan, and I'll get to the Tom Holland stuff in a second, but the fact that Spider-Man's greatest adversary, I won't say villain, his greatest adversary is Venom, and he came and was dealt with in the same fucking film was atrocious to me. That really had bothered me. That, all right, you introduced the black suit, he's getting emotional, all emo, the dancing scene, him shaking and gyrating. I'm like, the fuck are we doing? But all right, okay, let's just see where it's going. He's crying, Mary Jane's crying, Harry's crying, and shit.
Everybody's crying.
Everyone was crying. And then Venom comes. Even the fucking dude, Eddie Brock, he was about to cry in that church before he got the suit. And then he was beating ass, but then you defeated him all in the same film. Yeah, that bothered me. But my cousin is right. This is another of its time, genre defining. When this came out, what grade was I in? When did the first one come out? You said 2002? Yeah,
2002, 2004, and 2007.
Yeah, I was in double digits of age. Okay, yeah, this was awesome. I loved the Hobgoblin in the first one. No, Green Goblin. I'm sorry, Green Goblin in the first one, Doc Ock in the second one, Venom in the third. But they were great movies, great movies. And I remember in film school learning there are a lot of things that happens in the first film that they use a lot of film trickery that you just do not know. And it shows how creative these studios and directors used to be before CGI just took over
Yeah.
everything. Like I can tell you right now, the scene where he rescued her from that balcony that was collapsing and they swung away and it showed him holding her clutching to him as they swing away. That's not Tobey Maguire. It's a fucking mannequin. And it's a mannequin that's like moving along a track real quickly, whatever they have in the background. But they shot it so well that you would think like, oh, he's swinging in the air carrying this broad. It defies its time. And then also to throw out there, people don't know this, Spider-Man is the highest grossing superhero character. Not Batman, not Superman. Even combined, make up nowhere near the money that Spider-Man makes. And that is one of the reasons why Sony chose to get their hands on him from Marvel back in their darker days. If you know, you know. If you don't, I believe we touched on it in another video. Please check it out. Yeah. Now, this is where me and my cousin is where we have a rare instance when we do disagree. I do enjoy this film trilogy, but I am a more fan of the Tom Holland trilogy. And she is not. And I see the differences between them, the more grown aesthetic aspect to this one. Whereas with the Tom Holland, they kind of took it back to yesteryear, showing him as a kid in high school and etc. Even though the first film showed that he was a senior, but hey, to each their own. But these were still great movies, and their cultural impact still lasts today because that gif or meme of him dancing, people still use that to this day. Hell, even for the Tom Holland films, they brought him and another Spider-Man back just to show tribute to them of how the door got open for those films. So, and beautiful. That third one was
Moving on.
if you know, you know.
I would like to take